you so much for agreeing to talk to us for the Shona Shine conference.
Hi guys, yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll have a chat for the next 20 minutes, and we're excited to hear what you say and learn about who you are and all that lovely stuff. So we'll get straight in. So yeah, tell us who you are and what you do, and then maybe include a fun fact for yourself as well that maybe people don't know.
Sure. So my name's Nicola and I am the Countess of Cocoa, also known as the marketing manager for Tony's Chocolonely. We are the chocolate company on a mission to make all chocolate 100% slave-free. And I guess a fun fact about me is that this job was kind of destined for me because my very first email address when I was, I don't know, it must have been about 13 or 14, was nickloveschocolate@hotmail.com. So I think it's serendipity that I ended up working for a chocolate company.
That's amazing. I feel like so many people would never have that on as their email. So that's like,
if you want to manifest your future, put it in your first email address.
That's amazing. My first email was Lar is cool. So I don't know, has that come into fruition yet, but it's good to know that for other people it has. Brilliant. Yeah. So that's kind of, I suppose one of the main reasons that we wanted to talk to you was because of your job and just the mission behind Tony's Chocolonely. So maybe, yeah, just tell us a bit more about that, about like the mission and maybe why you think you've been so successful like thus far.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, it's a bit weird when you say like we're on a mission to make all chocolate 100% slave-free, because most people have no idea that there is any sort of bitter truth or bitter side to the chocolate industry. You know, we treat ourselves to it, we buy it for ourselves as a luxury, we buy it for people to gift them if they're, you know, to celebrate something or if they're not having a great day. So it should be this really like joyous thing. But the sad truth is actually that most of the cocoa in the world's biggest chocolate bars and brands comes from Ghana and Ivory Coast in West Africa. And because of intense poverty, there's 1.6 million children that work illegally on those cocoa farms. And there's at least 30,000 instances of modern slavery. So that means children that are trafficked to work on cocoa farms. So you know, that's a direct result of the world's biggest chocolate brands not paying enough for their cocoa, and those farmers living in such extreme poverty that they literally have no other choice but to use illegal labor to farm their cocoa. And that is exactly why Tony's Chocolonely was started and why we exist. We've got a bit of a strange model because we deliberately want to work where the problems are so that we can fix them. We're not just kind of running away and saying, oh, we can be an ethical chocolate brand because we don't source from where the problems are. We're a challenger brand, we're an activist brand. We deliberately want to be on the ground where the problems are so that we can see them and we can remediate them. And then we want to create a model that the whole world of big chocolate brands can take and use and replicate so that we can actually make way more impact than just in our own supply chain. Our whole goal is to change the entire chocolate industry. So yeah, it's a really amazing kind of brand to be part of because we say we're an impact company that makes chocolate, not just a chocolate company that makes impact. And I think that's quite an important distinction. And why do people love our chocolate? I guess we're crazy about chocolate and we're serious about people. And I think people like Tony's because we're providing an ethical chocolate choice, but there's no compromise on taste. It's really delicious. All our flavors are really kind of wacky, as well as just having kind of the standard ones. We come out with really fun new products. Our packaging is really bright. And, you know, we're trying to make, I guess, a mission and a problem that seems so far away for a lot of people, much more accessible so that they feel that just by actually buying a bar of chocolate, they can actually make a positive difference. So yeah, I think that's why it's been so successful so far.
That's amazing. And like, I really am just kind of fascinated by your point on you actually go to the places where the problems are. Because I feel like, as you said, like it's kind of a unique model. Because now that you said, I'm thinking about it, like a lot of people they'll say, okay, well, we're staying here because here it's good, but they're not actually doing anything to fix where the problem is. That's actually really fascinating, and I'm even thinking so much as you're saying it.
I know, and we actually, it's something that we get criticism for. People say, but your chocolate comes from where there is slavery and illegal child labor. We say, yeah, exactly. Like we're there so that we can see it and we can fix it and not just ignore it. So that's quite hard for people to understand. And it's quite an uncomfortable truth that actually in the chocolate that you're eating, if it's from one of the world's biggest brands, will have this illegal labor in the supply chain. But that's exactly what we're there to fix.
That's fascinating. And one thing as well, I know with your bars, the way like they're not just like square bars. So maybe tell us.
Yeah, a lot of people find them very annoying to eat, but there is method in the madness. Our bars are unequally divided, and that is to be, you know, a physical representation of the inequality in the chocolate industry. And the map of West Africa where we source the cocoa from is in the bottom left corner as well. So see if you can spot that next time you have some.
So cool. I just love the little details. It's fab. So yeah, so I then kind of, I guess, like obviously particularly with this, but maybe generally, you know, why is buying ethically so important, and like what are some things we can do to maybe be how can we maybe see if our choices are ethical when we're buying them, and things like that?
Yeah, you know, it's really simple. Like when we buy products, we are voting with our wallets for the world that we want to live in. You're actually making, you know, a choice. But a lot of the time people aren't making a conscious choice because you actually just don't know there's a problem in the products that you're buying. So a big part of my role at Tony's is to make more people aware of the issue so that they can actually make a more decision when they're buying. And I think generally a good rule of thumb as well is when something's too cheap, the likelihood is that someone at the start of the supply chain is suffering. It's true in chocolate, in coffee, in clothing. I mean, you should not be able to buy a dress for £1 or even £5 or probably even £10, because if you're buying that, how much do you think the person who made it is being paid? Probably nothing. And they probably live in horrible conditions in systemic poverty. And is that really worth it so that we can have fast fashion or cheap chocolate or cheap coffee? So, you know, ethical can sometimes cost more, but my advice would be to, you know, potentially buy less and buy with more conscience. And, you know, look for brands that are certified with things like B Corporation, which means they put people and planet above profit. Shop small, shop local where you can, and you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be, you know, 100% everything that you buy is perfect, but if you just make 1 or 2 swaps here or there, that can actually have a really big impact.
Yeah, fab, love it. And I love that, like that line of voting with your wallet. Again, you're just saying gems, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good one-liner. So I love that. So then yeah, so you're obviously the Countess, what is it, Countess of
Cocoa.
And you're like kind of in charge of the marketing. So like in terms of like what are some things that you focus on in terms of marketing that people could learn from, like whether there's people, you know, who have their own brand or they want to go into that area professionally, like what, like I guess, like what does your job mean, and what are things you think about on a daily basis to market?
Yeah, I guess if you distill it down, my job is just to tell more people about Chocolonely, and that is what marketing is, right? People being more aware and having a good feeling about your brand, so that when they see it in a shop or wherever, that they are, you know, intrigued to pick it up and try it. My whole job is about getting people to try our chocolate, because once they try it, they love it, and then they'll tell someone else about it, and then my job's done, because I don't have to like push my messaging at them because they've found out for themselves. And I would say that the thing that's most relevant for, you know, between Tony's marketing and your personal brand is we are really striving to be as transparent and authentic and genuine as possible. And I think that should be true for your personal brand as well. Like if you're faking it, or if you're trying to be something that just really doesn't feel true to yourself, that's going to kind of come out sooner or later. It's either going to be, you know, people will see that you're not genuinely passionate about it, or even worse, like if you're acting, it's going to take a toll on yourself and your mental health. Like, so I think doing something that you're passionate about, that you can really believe in, and if it's yourself or the brand that you're working for, the company they're working for, be as authentic and genuine and as honest as possible, honestly just makes life so much easier and more enjoyable too.
I know, I so agree. And I think like it takes a certain level of confidence in yourself to get to that level where you can like, okay, I can be myself. But honestly, it's like one of those cliches. It's cliche for a reason. Just like it's fine if you don't know something, but like it's so much worse if you're like trying to pretend like you know, or pretend like you're someone else. And so yeah, I love that you're
everybody's winging it. Nobody knows everything. You know, I heard something recently on a leadership call we were doing with Tony's, when they said we're all idiots. Like, we are, like, nobody knows everything. So if we all admit that, then it'll just be so much easier for everybody else to admit it. And you know, by saying you don't understand something, or by being honest with someone, you'll be giving them the freedom to also be open with you, and they'll be even more authentic after that.
Yeah, 100%. And then I suppose on some of the kind of tangibles, like what like might you do every day to spread the message of Tony's?
Oh, so we don't do any traditional paid media like a lot of big food and drink brands do, because we believe we're much more in having more authentic, genuine kind of conversations with people. And we do that through things that it's called earned and owned media rather than paid media. And that means media that we earn. So we tell stories so that press will write about it and our Choco fans on social media will talk about it. And then owned media, which is our owned social media channels and our website, our wrappers, you know, all the stuff that we actually as a brand own where we can communicate. So my job is really to make sure that all of those touch points are educating people about slavery in the chocolate industry, that they know that Tony's is trying to solve it. And then I also work on all the really fun new product development stuff as well, new products and delicious chocolate that we're going to be launching for the next few years. So that's a really interesting part of my job as well.
Fab, that's amazing. I've never heard that phrase, earned and owned for. That's a really cool way kind of distinguishing them. So that's cool. Yeah. And then so I mean, do you like, obviously, like I look at your packaging and it's kind of fun, and even like the font and stuff is fun. Like, you know, do you actively try and make this kind of serious topic like kind of fun and relatable? Is something that you think about? And if so, like how, I guess, do you do that? And are there kind of conscious things you think about? Okay, we're going to make this relatable to people, and you know, and kind of bring something that's, as I said, it's super far away, kind of a bit closer to home, while still, you know, educating but not being too, I don't know, sad or something.
Yeah, you know what, the problems in the chocolate industry are so deep and complex. And when you think about, you know, illegal child labor, like children working in illegal conditions, like it's such a heavy thing to think about. And it, like I said, it can feel really far away and something that people feel that they can't help with, that they can actually not have an impact on. But at Tony's, we try to make it more accessible for people to understand. So our mission is a really serious one, but our branding and our messaging is not serious. It's bright, it's tongue-in-cheek. We see ourselves as, you know, activists in the chocolate industry who want to educate as many people as possible that there's an issue. So we have to do that in a way that they feel that they can be part of. I don't know if you saw our Sweet Solutions bars that we launched recently, but we kind of imitated 4 of the world's biggest chocolate brands. And that's just an example of something that like one of the big chocolate companies would never have done, because it's way too risky. It's way too kind of bold and brave. But that's who we are as a brand. And I think that's why we really stand out in the industry and why we're ruffling so many feathers as well.
That's amazing. Yeah. And do you ever kind of like, because I know like for like me and a lot of people, like we're all talking about serious issues, but we're trying to make them a bit lighter. Like, do you ever feel kind of a tension there, or do you think you've kind of found a nice balance of, you know, spreading the message?
Yeah, you never want to. Yeah, sorry, you never want to make light of it because it is so serious. So we do try to a fine line, but it kind of comes back to the authenticity and the transparency thing. As long as we're being factual and we're speaking from the heart, and you know, people can see how passionate everybody at Tony's is about the problems. We feel like you can still have fun at work and still talk about it in a more lighthearted way, because actually that just gets more people's attention. If we were a really niche, serious, worthy brand, we'd be a lot smaller and we'd be having a much smaller impact. So it's definitely a fine line, but I think so far we kind of balance it well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, the kind of the whole aspect of like, you know, we're going to do this to get more eyes on us, because that in the end benefits us, as opposed to, you know, kind of not.
Exactly.
Like a really good way of looking at it. Yeah.
We're playing the long game.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I guess like, you know, I guess generally kind of what are some lessons you've learned, you know, whether like career related or just like life related, that you think maybe people watching could, you know, relate to or learn from?
Yeah. I think an important lesson that I've learned is always, it's easier said than done, but always try and work for a company or a brand or in a job that you can be genuinely passionate about. You know, and it might not be your first job, it might not be your second job, but you know, in the jobs, I've had 3 different big roles since I left university, and each of them has really taught me something. And now I'm in a job that actually that all of those has led me to, but in each of them, I I could get passionate about the products. I was learning from really great people, and I was in a really nice work culture. And I realized that those three things are the things that are most important to me out of bed in the morning, really. You spend so much of your life at work. If you really enjoy it and believe in what you're doing, that time will be well spent. There's that another cliche saying, if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. And I really believe that. But, my job's food and beverage. It could be teaching or nursing or being a doctor or having your own business or whatever it is. You've just got to make sure you really are motivated by it and passionate about it, because life's too short otherwise.
100%. I totally agree. And it's so true. It's like that, it might not be your first job or even like your 10th job, and I think it's really a matter of like trying a couple of different things, because I think like we always say, find a job you're passionate about, but it's sometimes easier said than done to actually find what you even are passionate about. So it's, it's about, I suppose, like trying a couple of different things and then and then finding what you actually like to get out of bed for in the morning. You
can be passionate about weird things as well. My first internship out of uni, I didn't have enough experience to get on the graduate scheme that I wanted to do. So I just like up sticks and moved to Germany for 6 months to do an internship just to get some experience. And I worked for a baby carrier company. So like a different alternative to like Baby Bjorn. And I was like 22 at the time. I hadn't had a baby. I didn't know anything about babies, but I really believed in this product. I like really could sell it and I really was passionate about it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you yourself, love or can use or, get involved in. But as long as you can find that one nugget of something that you really love about it. And if you don't love your job, you can like make sure you're balancing it with passions outside of work, so that you're getting that excitement somewhere. Because for some people a job is just a job and it's a means to an end. Like it doesn't have to be something that takes up all of their headspace, but then they spend more time out of work on their passions. And I think it's really important to have a balance.
That's such good advice. Yes. And I totally relate. Like I've been in jobs where I maybe like, oh, like don't really like this, but I've had my things on the outside that I'm like, okay, but this brings me joy. This kind of, is good for me. And you feel fulfilled in other places. So that's actually excellent advice. And then finally, obviously like we're all doing so much and there's so much going on in the world. Do you have any tips for, managing, not getting overwhelmed, or what you do for self-care? And just, how you might, and particularly now with the way the world is, like, do you have any kind of things that you do to mind yourself?
Yeah, my favorite thing to do, like it's probably really lame, but is to have like a really nice bath. That is like my favorite thing to do. It's almost become like an event during lockdown. It's like, oh, tonight I'm gonna have a bath and I'm gonna read my book and I'm gonna light a really like expensive candle that I got given for Christmas and I'm gonna have a really nice glass of wine. And it's like, that's instead of going out to like a restaurant or doing something in my social life. But that, just switching off from like screens and, just relaxing that isn't, just sleeping, I find really works for me. And I also feel like if I find myself getting overwhelmed or anxious, it can be really helpful to recognize that it's our body's way of telling us that something's not quite right. And rather than like fight it or panic about it, to like take a break to really tune into what that might be. So that can be just like switching your phone off for a couple of hours or doing some really deep yoga breathing. Like I never really understood this whole thing about breathing, but like just taking some like 5 really deep breaths can really like calm you down. Or, taking a short walk outside. Those are all like little small things that sometimes I do if I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed and I just get recentered. So yeah, that's what works for me.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And even like on the breathing thing, like something I heard a few months ago that was just like so simple and so obvious but profound, was that like we literally need air to live. Like we would literally die if we didn't have air. So it makes complete sense that like taking a few deep breaths really like just centers your whole system and really is good for you. So my mind has just been blown.
It's incredible when you do it and you feel your whole body relax, your whole central nervous system just chill. Like, and we have that within ourselves. You don't have to, have a therapy session or do an expensive yoga class. Like you can literally calm your own brain and your own mind, and that's really powerful.
Yeah, and there's so many different techniques. Like you can obviously like take in breath, hold it, leave it out, or people do like intranasal breathing where they like hold one nostril and
I've heard of that one.
Exhale through the other one. So there's all these different things. So fascinating. Love that. Yeah, thank you so much. We've come to the end of our interview, but thank you so much. I think everyone's learned something about, whether like, ethical practices or just managing life or marketing. So there's loads in this. So thank you so much. And yeah.
Thanks, guys.